Greetings, whiskey folk, and welcome to the official Dram Association Unbottling of the Baller. Interesting name. Single malt whiskey distilled from barley malt mash by St. George Spirits. I'm not sure how much of that is the title. I think I'm just calling it St. George's Spirits Baller. Yeah. Wild and wacky whiskey. So the last pair of whiskies that we released, we did an A and a B for the last set of whiskies there for the in-store samples. With a bit of a theme of wild and wacky, right? We had a Irish whiskey that was matured in casks that were charred using peat. So peat was in the cask, not in the malt, which is kind of weird. It was a single malt whiskey. And we had a Canadian-style whiskey with matsutake mushroom influence in it as well. So we wanted to follow up with something, with something that was maybe not quite that odd, but still a little odd. So I asked my colleagues for some suggestions of what they thought was some of the stranger whiskies in the store. And props to Bernie, shout out to Bernie, he came up with this option, which, is a bizarre whiskey. So at first look, you might think this is Japanese because there's a picture of a samurai on it, and it has Japanese writing, which, come to think of it, I haven't tried to translate, and nope, there's too much kanji. I'm not even going to try. But you look closely, and he seems to have the St. George cross on his shield, and it's a very not Japanese-looking shield as well. It's kind of all over the place, and it is by St. George Spirits. It's a single malt whiskey. 47%, and if you look on the back, it explains that it was distilled and bottled by St. George Spirits, Alameda, California, USA. Aged for 3 years, made in California. So this seems to be a Japanese-inspired whiskey with a picture of the patron saint of England, made in California, in a style of whiskey made famous by the Scots and the Irish. I think this whiskey has a bit of an identity problem. I'm not quite sure it knows what it is, but I have tried this before because, luckily for me, the agent, the importer for this whiskey, let me have a sample before it was even available here, and I loved it, and that's one of the reasons I brought it in. And it is really strange. So here's some notes from the actual manufacturer. A California take on the Japanese spin on Scotch whiskey. So the master distiller Lance Winters says of this unique and inspired spirit, which was created with Japanese-style whiskey highballs in mind, hence the name Baller. So it's not, I'm not entirely sure what the modern slang baller really stems from. A ball player, like a basketball player maybe? I don't know. I'm not down with the lingo. If anyone younger than me, or maybe even older than me, would care to explain the word baller, please do so in the comments section. But this is baller as in a highball, and I'm very familiar with those. That is the most common way that Japanese people enjoy their whiskey in Japan. It's just whiskey and soda water. Mizuwari, they call it in Japan. Fantastic way to drink a whiskey on a hot summer's day, or any day really. I quite enjoy a Mizuwari myself. So this was inspired from that. They tell us a little bit about the process. Starts off with 100% American barley, predominantly 2-row pale malted barley, and the remainder is lightly roasted. So it has a mix of barleys as well, which is cool. After distillation in their eau de vie pot stills, the whiskey is aged using bourbon casks and French oak wine casks, and then filtered through maple charcoal. Isn't that like the Lincoln process? Isn't that like... So it's distinctly Americanized as well in that sense, because it's maple charcoal filtered, which is wild. I don't think I've ever come across single malts that have had that done to them. And then it is finished in casks that held house-made umeshu. So yeah, the guys at St. George, who I have to admit I'm mostly familiar with their absinthe, which is fantastic. They make a whole suite of different spirits and apparently fruit wines. Umeshu is a Japanese plum wine, and they make their own version in California made from Californian-grown ume fruit, which is super cool. And that is what this whiskey is finished in. So, yeah, it's surprising to me that when I came up with the idea of weird whiskies for this month, that this one didn't jump to mind first from thinking about it. Because it is absolutely bizarre in the way that it's made. However, I don't think it tastes that bizarre. It all comes together really quite harmoniously. It's mad, but it works. Not to say that the other two didn't work, they very much do, but they're still very unique and interesting flavoured. This is unique and interesting, but also you don't realise when you're drinking it how weird it is. It's only when you look into the production methods and look at the weird label that you kind of go, oh yeah, okay, this is an odd one. It doesn't stand out as being strange, you know? It's hidden somewhat. Anyway, speaking of the label, they do have a little bit of information on that. Distiller Lance Winters did the art direction for the label, which reimagines the legend of St. George as a samurai. The original watercolour on the front label was by Oakland artist Sylvia Solocek Walters, done to emulate woodcut, a traditional style of Japanese art. The calligraphy was done by Eri Takase of Takase Studios, and I have to admit, it is freaking cool, and I kind of want to buy a print of this and put it on the wall. It is really, really interesting. It's like a samurai St. George stepping on a dragon whilst also straddling some kind of cask. It's super cool. Anyway, we should probably open it and drink it, shouldn't we? This is the official unbottling, and I haven't even unbottled it yet, so let's get to it. Pause for the pop. Ooh, it's got paper on it. All right, I've got to twist it first, and then pause for the pop. There we go. Ooh, that was a lot of effort. I'm thirsty now. Good job I've got a glass. Okay. So on the nose, this reminds me quite a lot of Glenmorangie Nectar d'Or. It's just got that slightly sort of sweet, almost syrupy, apricot-y kind of a thing going on there, with a wonderful biscuity, barley-based sort of spirit underneath it. It's surprisingly well balanced for how nuts it is. It's serenity from madness. Interestingly, today on the palate, it is. Maybe it's because this time I'm tasting it, I know how weird it is, whereas the first time I didn't actually know how weird it was until after I tasted it. It's coming across really sort of powdery, not quite floral, not quite vegetal, somewhere in between. Like fruity but not overly sweet fruity. Tropical, but not in the typical sense. It's not, it's not pineapple and mango and things. It's almost more like starfruit or something like that, I like starfruit. I've not had it in a long time. Yeah, straight up serenity from madness. Okay, well, they do have some official tasting notes. They say crisp and dry with a touch of malt sweetness and a hint of lychee fruit. Ah, lychee. Or lychee, I think some people pronounce it here. Yeah, I'd go starfruit, but lychee's a good one too. And a nutty almond character, totally, yeah. The smoky finish, not sure I'm getting smoke, but I'll go back and look for it, lingers and builds with each sip. In addition to using Japanese-style whiskey highballs, we recommend Bola in a Bola Vadier, or in place of a Scotch whiskey in a Bobby Burns or Rob Roy. I'm not sure what a Boulevardier. Oh, Boulevard. Oh, okay. It's a good play. I don't know what a Bobby Burns is. I don't know what a Rob Roy is. That's just like a Manhattan, but with Scotch, right? Bobby Burns, no idea. I'm gonna have to look that one up. I recommend just drinking this. It's very nice on its own. I don't think it necessarily needs playing with. However, I'm sure it would play very nicely with a lot of different flavours. That's remarkably vibrant and tropical this time. I don't really remember it being like that before. Maybe it's morphing with the seasons. It was winter last time I had it, and theoretically it's now summer, although it's been like 14 degrees and raining all week, so I'm not entirely sure it's summer, but... Is it summer or is it late spring? I'm never quite sure when the seasons change over. Either way, it's supposed to be nicer than this. I'm very disappointed in the weather right now. Well, peppery. Ooh, peppery on the finish there. That was cool. White pepper. Dusty white pepper. You know, the kind you get in old school like diners in their little pepper pots with the holes in the top. Definitely not freshly ground. It's a little bit. It's very, very finely ground and, you know, dusty white pepper. Oh, that's fun. Well, if you want to try this whiskey and find out your opinions of this one and find out how quite weird and wacky it is and wonderful, in my opinion, you can. It's available in store right now to sample for the next 4 weeks. This is our in-store dram, and it is available for $5 to try. Alternatively, if you are a Dram Association Premium member, you get to come in and try it, included in the price of your premium subscription. So you can just come in, and your name will be on a list, we'll tick you off, and there we go. A reminder, though, if you are newly signed up to the premium subscription, your in-store drams only start applying at the beginning of the next calendar month after you're signed up. So if you sign up halfway through a month, you'll still have to pay for drams that you come in for that month, and then at the beginning of the next month, your name will be on the list, and then you'll be able to just come in and try it and don't have to worry about it. Also, I should mention that it's for sale, of course. Of course it's for sale. It's also a featured dram because we're trying it in store. Regular price at $139.04, which means with 10% off, it could be yours for $125.14. We only have a few bottles of this left. I'm fairly sure there is more in the warehouse, though, and I'm definitely keeping this one around for a while. So don't worry too much if you come to the store and find out that it's out of stock. There will be more on the way, I'm fairly sure. Yeah. Really, really interesting whiskey. Thanks again, Bernie, for the recommendation. I'm glad we're putting it out there for our members to try. Slan Shavar, I'll see you on the next one.